The Flash is one of the most popular superheroes in DC Comics, but it's actually a name that's been used by many different people in the past. So let's start all the way back at the beginning and get you guys the complete history. The moniker of The Flash was first used by college student Jay Garrick, who, after inhaling heavy water vapor, discovered that he could move at supersonic speeds. While Jay had a noteworthy solo career in the 1940s, he's best known as a founding member and a central part of the Justice Society of America, not to be confused with the Justice League. Jay and the JSA's history have been retconned multiple times and folded over into various timelines, so perhaps it's easiest to say that they're a superhero team from the World War II era that somehow continues to operate to this day. In more modern stories, Jay takes a backseat and acts like a mentor to younger speedsters, but perhaps Jay's most famous story is The Flash of Two Worlds, where he discovered the DC Comics multiverse alongside Flash number 2, Barry Allen. Speaking of which, when you think of The Flash, you probably think of Barry. You know the story. The Reverse Flash went back in time, killed Barry's mother, and framed his father for the murder. Barry made it his life's goal to prove his father's innocence and became a forensic scientist. One night, after a lightning bolt struck him and made him fall into an assortment of chemicals, he became the fastest man alive and created the source of his own power, the Speed Force. Not only did Barry create the Speed Force, but he's also the first person in DC Comics to properly harness it, allowing him to go fast, create whirlwinds, and even think at light speed. Barry Allen was a founding member of the Justice League, discovered the DC Comics multiverse alongside Jay Garrick, as we mentioned earlier, battles Captain Cold and his rogues, and can even travel through space and time using his cosmic treadmill. While Barry certainly seems like the most iconic Flash, it wasn't always that way. For over 2 decades, Barry was actually dead following the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths, when Barry sacrificed his life to save the universe. However, it turns out that Barry actually wasn't dead after all, and instead he was chasing a bullet shot backwards through time in the Speed Force that was aimed at an alien god, while simultaneously being chased by death itself, because comics. At the end of Final Crisis, Barry returned to the land of the living, briefly became a Blue Lantern during Blackest Night, and caused the events of Flashpoint when he goes back in time to prevent his mother's death. This shock to the time stream rebuilt the entire multiverse, and is what caused the infamous New 52 reboot. In the New 52, Barry's marriage was erased, his age was dialed back a bit, and all of his rogues got a cool power boost. Besides that, not much changed for good old Barry. So while Barry was dead for over 20 years, the first Kid Flash, Wally West, was filling in those red and gold shoes. If you read comic books from 1985 to 2008, or watched the Justice League cartoon, this is your Flash. Wisecracking jokester guy, that was Wally, not Barry. Wally West is the nephew of Barry Allen's eventual wife, Iris West, and was a total Flash fanboy. One day, Barry visited Wally as the Flash and revealed his origin story to him. But after setting up a demonstration of chemicals, lightning struck twice, literally, granting Wally all of the powers of his idol. With his new super speed, the wisecracking Wally joined Barry as Kid Flash, and even helped form the Teen Titans alongside DC's greatest sidekicks. However, after Barry's apparent death, he took over the mantle of Flash, fought Savitar, the leader of a speedster cult, got married, and had 2 kids. Like Barry, he even has his own Reverse Flash nemesis, simply named Zoom, not to be confused with Barry's Professor Zoom. Though Barry first pioneered the Speed Force, Wally is the one who pushed the Speed Force to its never-ending limits, and truly unlocked the potential of Goes Fast. Wally can create clothing made of pure speed, outrun death by going so far into the future that death no longer exists as a concept, hit speeds of near 13 trillion times the speed of light, and knocks people into outer space with just one punch. And then he retired to being a family man after the events of Infinite Crisis on the alien planet Savoth. However, when Wally's kids started aging rapidly, he came home to have them examined and returned to his role as the Flash. Despite briefly appearing in DC's Convergence, this Wally doesn't exist anymore. What the New 52 gives us is a new, edgy, troubled youth Wally West that sometimes hangs out with Barry and briefly got super speed in the future after he died or something. While Wally was away on planet Savoth, his replacement as Flash was Bart Allen. Out of the 4 Flashes, Bart is the only descendant of another Flash. As you might have guessed if you watched Young Justice, Bartholomew Bart Allen is actually none other than Barry Allen's grandson from the 30th century. Brace yourselves, we're going to have to explain a lot of time-traveling shenanigans. Shortly after Barry was put on trial for the death of his greatest adversary, he and Iris West retreated to the future. In the future, they gave birth to 2 children, later known as the Tornado Twins. After these few blissful years, Barry was summoned for his great sacrifice across space and time against the Anti-Monitor, and as the decades pass in the future, Bart Allen is born never knowing his grandfather. Bart suffered from advanced metabolism which caused him to age rapidly. Iris Iris, who remained in the future, sent her grandson to the present, where Wally is able to help him normalize his aging, freeing Bart up to become the superhero speedster, Impulse. Bart spends many years as Impulse alongside his mentor and fellow speedster Max Mercury, and even co-founds Young Justice, and later joins the Teen Titans. Shortly after joining the Titans, Bart reinvents himself as Kid Flash, but it isn't long before he's forced to become the new Flash after Wally's disappearance. Now, 4 years older due to comics, Bart discovers that he has actually absorbed the entire Speed Force inside of him. Of course, it seems as though nothing can last for very long with Bart, as he dies sacrificing himself in battle against the Rogues. But of course, this is comics, and since no one stays dead for long, neither can Bart. In another huge space-time battle, the Legion of Superheroes' very own Brainiac 5 is able to bring Bart back to life in the future by having bottled his spirit in a magic wand or something. I don't know, man, comics are weird. Bart, now de-aged from his time as the Flash for some reason, returns to his role as Kid Flash and holds a serious grudge against his now resurrected grandfather Barry Allen. But since Barry gets all selfish and triggers Flashpoint, Bart sacrifices himself, again, to the Speed Force to help Barry in this alternate Flashpoint timeline. Bart's New 52 counterpart is, well, he's technically Bart Allen, and he is Kid Flash, but he's actually Bartor, an alien criminal from the future. Oh boy. If you want to start reading about the various Flashes, I'd recommend checking out the 2007 run of Justice Society for Jay, the New 52 run of Flash for Barry, Flash Born to Run for Wally, and finally Flash the Fastest Man Alive for Bart. But hey, let's take a vote. Which Flash do you want me to go into more detail on in a future video? Jay Garrick or Barry Allen? Click or comment to cast your vote. However, if you want to know more about the Flashes, I'd recommend checking out my video on the Speed Force. Maybe it will help you understand all the craziness surrounding speedsters at least a little better.